We're live. Josh, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing
Good.
amazing. Thanks for being on here, brother. We met a while back at a meetup here in Las Vegas, and um, you had a very similar situation in terms of you're buying property in the Midwest. We both live in Vegas, and you're buying property in the Midwest, and I just thought that was so cool about how many properties you've been able to acquire in such a short amount of time in terms of the rentals. But for people who don't know Josh, tell us who you are, man, and a little bit of background about how you got into real estate investing.
So my name's Josh Galindo, as you can see. I'm a big proponent of creating a uniform brand around the Galindo name. So all of my companies are branded with Galindo, Galindo Group Investments, Galindo Group Team Investments, Galindo Group Real Estate, Galindo buys houses. I am Josh Galindo. Everything's Galindo. Um, but I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm 38 years old. I have been married for about 12 years. I've got four amazing children. Ages are 9, 7, 5, and 3. I'm a licensed real estate broker for Galindo Group Real Estate. I am trusted by 80 to 90 agents at any given one time to hang their license at Galindo Group Real Estate. And those agents often do traditional helping a buyer, helping a seller sell. And then we've got a handful of other house flippers. My primary business is flipping homes. In my career, I've done about 985. It's always a moving number. I closed one Friday, so call it 986, whatever it was. I just say 980 until I get over 1,000. I call them doors, so 76 doors because they're either townhomes, condos. I own my building, and my building alone has 7 tenants. I've broken that up into doors just because it's easier to say. So I love real estate. I love entrepreneurial spirit. I love mindset. And I'm building a brand around social media. And what that looks like for me was I went and got rich first. And then now I'm focusing on social media versus I think a lot of people go and try to build a brand through social media that is the perception of wealth. And then they use social media to get wealthy. I focused on obtaining wealth first. And now I'm sharing it with the world on how I did it and hoping to build a beautiful social media brand.
Amazing, dude. So I think you've done an amazing job at that. Honestly, can you hear me okay?
I've only been at it for 45 days. So,
Yeah, well, I can. You're out there. Honestly, we're going to talk a lot about mindset. We're going to talk a lot about brand building, and we're going to talk a lot about buying real estate and some of the types of deals that you're doing today. But yeah, you have like you were known for like the purple. Like when I came to town, I had seen this big purple like building with the brand Galindo, and I'm like, who is this guy? And then I started seeing you on social media with all of your cars branded like with Galindo, and I'm like, dude, this guy has the branding figured out. And what's funny is like I tell people this all the time, and you probably tell your agents and your investors in office like how important that is, right? But you've built the brand, but you didn't really start taking the personal brand. I am Josh Galindo, serious until like 45 days ago. But it seems like you're everywhere already, so you're taking it to the next level. So how important is that brand
you
building?
know, it's a great, what an observation that you were able to observe and recognize that. I just recently learned the power of self brand, personal brand, whatever you want to call it. I, for many years, pushed a lot of energy, not a lot of money. That's what I kind of brag about is I don't spend a lot of money to get my brand out there to the points you've just made. It cost me $800 to paint my building purple. That was probably equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of branding that somebody that was less creative would have been able to garner. But I focused real heavy on Galindo Group Real Estate, all the companies, and then I realized in order to run these companies, you've got to have a lot of people. And then I realized that all of the network, the companies actually only make so much. It's the people that make all the money, the employees, the agents, and then the company itself only makes so much. And then I was like, well, what company am I making the most amount of money from? And it was my flipping business. Well, who's the major component of my flipping business? Josh Galindo. Okay, so Josh Galindo is who needs to be being promoted. And then I started diving into this social media space, and I looked at it like I can take the business building experience that I have and apply it to social media. Like, this isn't a game for me, this social media game. Like, this isn't something I'm trying. This isn't something I'm throwing some energy at. No, this is a intentionally calculated thing that I'm doing. We pre-recorded 90 videos before we launched. We had a launch date set up. We had the videos laid out, an intentional order on how we were going to release them. We knew that we could secure 6 billboards up and down the 215 that are promoting the brand. How we had a business strategy behind how we were going to promote ourselves on the billboards. And then we had phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We know how many followers we need to get to. We know what percent of those followers we need to be able to tap into to have it become profitable. So this is a very serious business that I'm building, that I think sometimes people just get into social media and go, but if you put the same business mindset behind it, it could be extremely lucrative. And I'll tell you the numbers that I'm trying to accomplish, that I will accomplish, is when I get to 50,000 followers, real followers, because I don't need clout.
That's what I was going to say. You're doing it totally different. I have so much respect for what you're doing on the approach, because you're treating it like a business. You could go write the check for $1,000 and buy the 50,000.
Oh yeah. But see, I don't need clout. That's what it comes down to. People that know me are like, I know that guy. So I don't need some random to come to my site and go, wow, this guy's special because he has 50,000 followers. They could just look at the content and go, this guy's fucking pretty special. You can see he's accomplished. It's the people that aren't accomplished that have to go and buy 50,000 followers so that they appear accomplished. I got the tools to look successful. I understand success is, relationships, health, and I'm not dumb, but I'm also conscious that society unfortunately requires the proper tools to represent success, the cars, the watches, the rental portfolio, all that stuff. So I've got all the tools. Nobody comes to my page and is like, that guy said it looks fake. It's, so I don't need the fake followers. But I don't remember where I was going at with that, but go ahead. What?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you made a good point, is that you built your brand around your home buying company first, but then you realized how that all funneled back to you. And so then you started putting emphasis on this, but you didn't just say, hey, I'm just going to do this every now and then. Like, I might just throw a video here and there. You're like, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I've seen the billboards. I've seen the social media. It's out there. It's amazing. And it's very recognizable, like the red, and like it's consistent across the whole board. And I think that's what people need to understand when they're implementing brand and they're implementing personal brand as well, is like it's like you could half-ass it, right? Or you could take it serious and do what you're doing. So I just wanted to really touch on that again, because I see so much value in what you're doing. And I would love to hear further on your strategy, because you said, I have a goal of hitting 50,000 followers, and you talked about,
that's right,
really monetization of that.
So 50,000 followers, real followers, and then release whatever the program it is. Because I don't want to build a program now, because when I hit 50,000 followers, I may be on a whole different trajectory. It might be more focused on mindset, and people may be really gravitating to how the tips and tricks that I use to navigate this treacherous world that we all live in. And they may want to tap into that. So then if I built a flipping software, now my flipping software is obsolete because I'm a mindset guy. So I don't know what I'm going to build yet, but I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about getting to 50,000 followers, real followers that like who I am. Right. And then once that happens, I want to tap into 50% of 1%. So 1% would be 500, or excuse me. Yes, 1% would be 500. And then half of that's 250. You take the 250, and if you could get a subscription, because I'm a believer in subscription, one, it holds the content provider accountable for providing good content because they have to stay on it. If you sell a course, you only got to sell it once. And if you sell a piece of shit, that's on them. So I think it's a win-win for both parties. So if you have a subscription-based scenario, one, it's consistent cash flow for me. Two, it holds me accountable, and it's tremendous value for the consumer. But if I release my subscription at $199 times 250 people, that's $47,000-ish a month.
Yep. This
So
subscription model is insane.
If I invest $100,000 into this thing, which is what my plan is, which I think I can get to 50,000 followers with $100,000.
Yeah.
In the first month of being 100% is $47,000. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah. So it's like you're putting in that work up front, just like you did with all of your investments, just like you did with before you started doing any personal brand, because it's going to yield a higher return in the long run versus if you're just doing it half-ass. And that's what I really respect about what you have going on. And dude, we haven't even talked about what you've done in real estate at all to this point. But this is about branding and how important that is for your real estate business. So now that we've touched on that, let's kind of shift gears to mindset. How long have you been in the business, and what was that like starting out your business in Las Vegas? How long did it take you to really start getting a good groove of things? And what are some things that you had to overcome to get to the point where you're at today?
Well, I think it's important to really, and I'm gonna go fast on this. So if you want to hear an in-depth story, the full episode, I guess, if you want to call it that, of my personal story, you will have to go to my podcast, which is The Fuck Average, Be Legendary. This is my podcast. You could find it on any of the outlets, YouTube, Spotify, the whole nine. But so I'm going to go through it relatively quick. But I was a troubled teen growing up. I was raised by a single mother. Dad left when I was 1, never came back, never showed up on Saturdays, never played baseball with me, never taught me to shave, never taught me that I'm going to grow hair on my armpits and around my junk. Dad wasn't there. Like, he never came back. There's some dads that come back and then leave and then come back. Dad was gone. Okay. So I was a troubled teen. I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs. I thought I was unworthy of love because the one person that I'm entitled to be loved by chose to leave me. He didn't die. He chose to leave. So I received that as a belief system that I wasn't worthy of love. So then I of course, acted out in a lot of dysfunctional ways as a teen. Long story short, my mom was highly in tune and ambitious, but she was juggling an ambitions of maintaining her own career, providing for her 2 children that she was the only breadwinner for, and trying to be the best mom and dad that a human being could be. And as a parent today, I can't even imagine how she pulled that off. But having said all that, she knew I was either going to go to jail, die, or kill somebody with the track that I was on. So she knew that she had to kidnap, or she knew she had to get me. She had to abandon and own that she wasn't able to parent me anymore, which is a big pill to swallow, dude, as a parent.
No
You're
question.
basically admitting I failed. I failed at parenting this child, and I love this child more than I care to preserve my ego, and I'm going to allow somebody else to raise him. So she coordinated with this school in Mexico to have me kidnapped out of my bed in the middle of the night and transported to Ensenada, Mexico, in 2 knee braces as I wobbled through the airport. Flew me to San Diego, jumped in a rental car, drove through the Mexican border, drove to Ensenada, drove into 18-foot walls, and I lived in a lockdown facility for 16 months and learned how to rehabilitate my brain, my body, everything, and become a functioning member of society. And that's why I said I'm going to blow up that story quick, because I can give you a lot more detail on how that transformed my life on my podcast, but I'd use your whole podcast.
My mind is blown already, man. I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I didn't trip and fall and become this relatively in tune human being. Like I was cut open at 16 and all of my organs were thrown on the table. And then an expert in organ organization walked in the room and said, let's put everything back and then sew this guy up properly. So I hit the ground at 17 and a half. And I was always a control freak. I think the control stemmed from dad leaving. The 2 things that are supposed to be consistent in your life wasn't there. So I was trying to find control in some other place. So school and formal education didn't work for me. So the second I could drop out of high school, in a nutshell, I basically did. So I'm a high school dropout, never went to college. So I got out and I had to hit the ground running. Once I burnt those bridges, I kind of knew, on paper, what was I really worth? Graduate high school, yes or no? No. How much high school did you finish? 50%. What does that look like to an employer on paper? What is that worth? $40,000 to $60,000? It's worth nothing. It's worth very little.
Yeah.
So I said the only way to go to complete freedom, because obviously if I desired control, in order to obtain that control, I had to put myself in a position to be able to do what I wanted to do. So I felt like I was in control at all times. I knew that the formula to do that was to go and make money. Yeah. So I was real heavy on making money. So I was like, well, I have no formal education. The only way that I could do this is to just kind of attack these things, these tasks, head on, and just have no fear. And if I fucked up, instead of taking it as a failure, just understand every failure as a learning opportunity to pivot and do better. And I swear to you, Michael, that's one of there's discipline, there's skill, and then there's understanding that failure is not failure or something to be ashamed of. I've lost everything. There was a point where I was growing weed in my attic, or not my attic, excuse me, in my hallway closet to pay my bills, and it was because I just refused to give up on real estate because I knew that was my ticket out. But I never gave up on real estate. I guess what I was getting at there. But anyway, so I jumped in the game. Do you want me to get into my flipping space, or do you want? I'm a story guy, so I don't want to.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get there. I just have to make one comment, man. A common theme that I see on this show is a lot of people who are successful. They didn't just get this handed to them in a silver platter. A lot of people went through a lot of stuff to get to where they're at today, and I can't even imagine like what you went through during those times and like how challenging that must have been. But to then decide and commit and to do whatever it takes, mindset, to get you to where you're at today, it's crazy. It's incredible, dude. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what. Here's the analogy I give. Imagine being 16, thrown into this results-based program. This was not timed. This wasn't like if you're here for 15 months, you get to go home. This was results-based. So the only way out was graduating or turning 18. I got there when I was 16. So I either had to sit there for 24 months, and the level of what is the term I'm looking for? The lack of freedom in this space makes you uncomfortable. So you don't want to sit there for 24 months. There was no girls. I couldn't get up without permission. I couldn't talk without permission. I couldn't go to the bathroom without permission. I couldn't eat without permission. I was woken up every day at 6. I had to go to bed at 8. I mean, I had zero freedom. So they didn't make it comfortable. So I knew the second that I got there that the only way out was to get out. Right. And so I hit the ground running and worked. And I applied. So the analogy I give is, imagine with all of that, what society did to me is they threw this 100-foot sheet of glass in front of me, stripped me of all of my clothing. So I'm standing there in the nude, and they threw a big bucket of water on the glass and then said, climb over this. Mm-hmm. And then you get to go home. Now tell me that you want to talk about learning about yourself. You want to talk about developing mindset. You want to talk about learning how to be tenacious. You want to talk about learning how to never give up. Visualize that scenario and then imagine having to learn all that at 16. So when I got out at 17 and a half, dude, I was pretty tuned up. I learned how to overcome adversity and challenge. And in a nutshell, I knew I'd burnt all the bridges. So I started at the Mirage as a pool attendant and worked my way all the way up to basically valet. It was a hospitality space. And I was like, I have no plan. So I'm just going to work really hard and save as much money as I can. And when I have a bunch of money, then I can go and find a plan to invest in. But until then, I'm just going to do the old-fashioned way. Go to work every day, work harder than everybody else, and keep moving up the ladder and impressing everybody around me. And I'm always a big believer in that, dude. You've got to be in the top 3 or number 1 in everything you do. And as you just noticed, tell me that that's not a representation of how I live my life. I don't do anything, and you don't even know me that well, but you're seeing pieces of me here and there. I don't do anything unless I am in the top 3 or number 1. So and that doesn't mean I have to be that right away, but I am always pushing to become that.
Yeah. We get one life,
So
dude. Like, you got to play to win, right?
absolutely. Why play?
Why
Why
play?
would you
Yeah.
go play if you're going to sit on the bench?
Do
Or if you're
val-
going to suck at the sport, like if you're a ping pong master, why are you going to go play football? You might as well go play ping pong and be the best fucking ping pong player on the planet and blow the socks off everybody that watches you.
Right. So when somebody looks at you and like what you went through in your story, they might think that like Josh has all these things going on. Like he must have just fell into this or whatever people are thinking. I don't know what people are thinking. Obviously, that's not the case here. But
Maybe.
what I start to think about is how do you juggle all of that? Like if you want to be number one, I've always been told, this is what I've heard, like you got to have one thing, you got to focus on it. Like, do you have one thing where you went all in on it to completely crush that and dominate at it before you started to do obviously
Yes.
social media, before you started to buy rentals in St. Joe, and
Totally.
before you started all these investments?
I'm so glad you just said that, because it is easy to be almost hypnotized, mesmerized, bamboozled by Josh is running 10 companies. I can do it too. No. That's not how you start. Let's talk
Right.
about how you start, because I think that's what a lot of these podcasts are for. This is for people trying to learn how to start. It's easy to be motivated when I start talking big and rambling really quick and telling my amazing story. But then when they turn off the podcast, they're like, wait a second. I'm still in the same spot that I started at when I turned on that podcast. No, I need someone to give me real tools on how to start. And the real tool on how to start is you just start. Even if you fuck up. I say, if you fuck up and you dropped at the top of a tree and you hit every branch on the way down, boy, the next time you fall down a tree, you're going to make sure you don't hit as many branches. And eventually you'll be able to navigate a tree and climb down very quickly. But you have to hit every branch on the way down to know how to navigate each branch. So failure is huge. But yes, to your point, failure is huge in a very positive way. But to your point, I learned how to flip a house.
Yep.
And I flipped one house. And how did I get the money together? Because how do you get the money? I went to my weed friend who grew weed. And I asked him, I said, hey, bro, you got 40 grand? He goes, yeah. I go, do you know anybody else that's got money? This is like 2008, not 2008 when nobody had any money. He goes, my other friend's a trust fund baby, and he just got some of his trust. I was like, ask if he's in. So we put together $130,000. We went down to the auction. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had balls of steel. You know what I'm saying? Because think about that. If I fucked up, my weed friend was going to smoke me. Then the trust fund kid was going to smoke me. So I intentionally burnt the boats so that I had no other option but to succeed. So I literally bought the house, and then I was the first guy there, dude, in the house, demoing the tile, demoing out the molded out ass kitchen. The house was full of furniture. I held a garage sale. I'm delivering mattresses to different sides of the city for $80 so that I don't have to just throw all this shit away. And when I netted out all of the expenses to the garage sale or expenses of profits, I made like $368. Yeah. There was a van in the garage that I sold for like $400. And, I was laying sod. I told myself, if a blind monkey can do it, I'm not going to hire it out. Why did I do all this stuff? Because I had made a commitment that I would ensure that I got my investors' money back, and I was going to make some money. So when people go, how do you start? You just start.
Yeah.
You just start. And then you do the same thing. People get, okay, think about my journey in the last 3 years, right? I've been a successful house flipper since 2008, we'll call it. All of a sudden, crypto showed up on the scene, right? And it dangled a carrot over here. All these other guys like crypto, okay, right? They got off the scent. They lost their focus. Then there was drop ship stores, right? Drop shipping, Walmart, Amazon, off to that. Okay, now I'm distracted. NFTs, I'm distracted. Me? I said, fuck all that. I know where I'm headed, dude. I stay right in my lane. I'm a house flipper. I'm an expert house flipper. Okay, and I crushed it at flipping homes. Made maybe tens of millions of dollars at this point. And what did I do with the money? Then I started buying rentals. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, well, how do you become wealthy? Income makes you uh,
Rich.
rich. Thank you. Thank you. That's the saying. Income
Yes.
does make you rich. And then rentals and long term reoccurring income, cash flow makes you wealthy. And I've learned that, dude. People think I just started making good money because I have all these nice things. But I've been making good money for 5 years. I just was buying rental properties, rental
Yep.
properties, rental properties. Finally, the cash flow of the rental properties got big enough where I could go buy nice things. Let me just hit you with one thing because I know you got something on the tip of your tongue. My
Yes.
rule of thumb here is I don't buy anything with a long-term reoccurring payment unless my rentals can pay for it. So I'll give you some perspective. My Lamborghini payment is like $2,600 a month. I would never buy that based on how much money I made last year in my house flipping business. No, 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 no. I need to buy 3 rental properties that are generating me about $1,000 a month each to pay for that Lamborghini. So that means I don't get to buy that Lambo unless I have that set up first. My primary residence, my mortgage is $6,400 a month. Okay, how do I buy that? I need to go and buy. This was 2018. This is how I bought this $1.5 million house when nobody I knew was buying $1.5 million houses. I was like, I don't have to buy a $1.5 million house. I have to save $600,000 and buy 6 rentals that pay me $6,000 a month so I can pay the mortgage of $6,000 a month. Now, and then those 6 houses, I never leverage ever. That means that nobody under any circumstance can take my house from me because I have these 6 homes free and clear that generate me the $6,500 a month that pays my mortgage. So
I
my
love that.
system is arguably bulletproof. I mean, and my debt service, my debt ratio amongst all of my properties is 39%. I do not believe in high debt.
That's what I was most impressed about when I started talking to you about rentals. And you buy these houses in these other markets, right, where they're a little bit more affordable, but you're not keeping a lot of debt on them, right? You're pretty much just taking your flip profits and just buying a house for cash, right?
Mhm.
And then that's just free and clear income to pay for the lifestyle. Like I was going to ask you, I'm like, I got a car this year that qualified for the Section 179. The Lamborghini doesn't qualify for the Section 179. So you just got to have the cash flow to cover that. Obviously, the G Wagon. Dude, I started looking at your HQ. You posted a picture of your HQ, and I'm like, this is starting to look like a 10X, HQ over there. You got the G Wagon, you got the Lambo.
Did you
Now all
see
you
the
need is the
Sprinter van I
Rolls.
just got?
Yeah, the Sprinter van. That thing is sick.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny is you want to talk about a social experiment. I have this incredibly beautiful place that I'm very proud of in Bryan Head. It's a 5,500 square foot cabin on an acre that overlooks the number one ski resort up there. 5-car garage, renovated, dialed to the max. The payment on that place is $7,400 a month. I bought that place a year ago. Nobody even looked at me. Nobody thought I was rich. Nobody said, "Wow, good for you, Josh. You're the man."
Yeah,
Dude, the down payment on that was 325,000. I put 100 grand into it, so I'm into that thing for 425,000 plus the monthly payment. Now, one person said, "But I go and buy a $237,000 Lamborghini,
yep,
and all of a sudden I'm fucking rich." I'm
that's
like, "You
right.
guys are fucking blind." Nobody gave me credit for the fucking cabin. That is so extracurricular income, so discretionary income. But the second I buy this depreciating asset that's in the shape of an arrow for
Yep.
$237,000, I'm fucking rich.
That's the world we live in, man. That's
I
social
thought it
media
was
for
so
you.
funny. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
bizarre. And I bought an Airbnb and I have probably 100 into the Airbnb and I could have went out and bought a sick car for cash. But why would I
yeah,
do that when I want to have the lifestyle that we're talking about right now? Because it's just delaying gratification. That's all it
yeah,
is.
yes.
To
And
to
see,
live a life without anxiety.
I've been delaying gratification since 2014. That's why I say that is I've been flipping. I became a professional house flipper in 2014. I started in 2008. 8, I struggled. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I became an expert at 14 and a half. So
After
it took,
6 years, 7 years of being in the
yeah,
business.
7 years to perfect this thing. And then, boy, did it take off once I became an expert.
So let's talk about that. Did you make money on that first flip? And then how did you determine now that you were an expert? Was it just the consistency of your deal flow, or what?
You know, that's a good question, and I want as much humility as possible here. I don't want to be perceived as I want to be perceived as like a normal guy because I am a normal guy. I never want to be perceived as anything beyond that. I want to help people. My mission in life, I swear to you, the most fulfillment that I get is from helping people. So this is all intended to help. I think it's awesome when someone comes to me and goes, "Dude, because of that one thing you said, it changed the trajectory of my life." Because I can tell you that I had about 5 with no dad. I got 6 badass dads in my life, and they
Yeah.
were all mentors. So, and I admire each one of them. Think they're the coolest, greatest human beings ever walked the earth because they helped me. So I know what that feels like to be admired. I know what it feels like to admire somebody to that degree. I would love to have someone admire me because I've helped them.
This is exactly why we're doing this show, Josh. And I can second that's valid. Not that you're just saying that, because I know several successful flippers in town, and I know where a lot of them learned what they know, and it was probably from your office, right? Like you taught a lot of people in this Vegas market how to flip houses. And not to take
Yeah.
anything away from them guys, because they're all amazing individuals. They all have very unique skill sets, but I'm sure you've poured into a lot of people that now run their own very successful operation.
Yeah, yes, thank you for acknowledging that because again, that feels good to hear that I was able to be an impact. What I will say to make sure that those people that have taken those little nuggets from me and have turned them into very successful businesses, the ones that you see are the ones that had it. There's people I've
100%.
taught that have never done anything with it. So those people that are out there accomplishing big things with the tools that maybe they initially learned from me and then built on from there, they deserve a lot of credit because the flipping game is not easy. You got to
100%.
have it or you don't have it. But where were we at with that before? I'm sorry. You're
Well,
going
we
to
were
have to keep.
talking about becoming like the professional real estate flipper, because you had done it for so many years up until you said 2000 what 14 or whatever year
Yeah,
you said,
14 or
and
15.
then you realized I got something here. I got
The
a
way that
system.
I am able to identify when I have something is when I am able to put time, energy, and effort into something and expect X result and then get X result. When you have predictable results, is when you know you have a business. I
Yep.
wake up, I do this happens. I wake up, I do this happens. You wouldn't believe it, but I'm a broker, so I'm around a lot of real estate agents that are practicing traditional real estate. They wake up, have no clue what's going to happen that day, have no clue when they're going to make money, go to sleep, wake up, something good happened, but it wasn't because of their time, energy, or effort. It just came to them.
Yep.
And then they struggle, go to sleep, wake up. You know what I'm saying? To me, when you know you're a professional is when you do X, Y, Z, and then this happens every single time. That's how you know you have a business, is when you
Predictability.
have predictable results. Yep. And to me, when I learned that I was a professional at house flipping, I knew if I did this, and this, I would get this result. And that's when I said to myself, I have a system now. And
Yep.
then I took it from flipping 15 to 18 to 30 homes at the max during that era of my life, the 2008 to 14. I took it to 123 homes. And 123 homes in 12 months with 2 people, me and 2 other people, so 3 total. And one was an ex valet driver, and the other one was an ex Jeep flipper. Um, you know,
In 1 year.
I think it's important to stress what that. And yeah, in 1 year, I bought 123 homes, renovated 123 homes, and sold 123 homes. So I arguably did about the 375 transactions, whatever that math is in quick numbers, with 3 people. 2 of them had no clue what they were doing, but were great at taking instruction, and then me.
Yeah.
So, but I knew that I was an expert at that at that time.
I would say so. Guys, I mean, we're talking about buying houses. Like, I talk a lot about wholesaling on this show. I do wholesaling. I've purchased a lot of flips. We did 93 deals last year, and I would say 40% of those were flips. And I know how much it takes to buy, not only from like effort, but capital, construction management, like the oversight, all of that with everything going on. And that's insane. Like, it's pretty impressive. So with that system, there's a couple components that we could talk about. We could talk about number one, how are you finding these deals, right? But we could then talk about how are you raising the capital to make all this happen from a financial perspective, and then from a construction, that's a whole nother beast, right? Like, can we get
I
into
didn't
that?
have a
That's
construction manager. I didn't have a designer. I didn't have an acquisition guy. Like my businesses now are very beautifully ran. I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud of all the
yeah,
people that helped run them. But dude, when I was doing that back in the day, bro, I was a designer. I was the acquisition manager. I ran construction. I ran material. I worked nonstop. My wife told me the other day, she goes, Josh, I remember I would ask you, can I just have from noon until bedtime on Sunday with you? Because
yeah,
that's how much of an animal I was, bro. I was up at 6, home at 9. Up at 6, home at 9. Saturday mornings, up at 6, driving properties home. Maybe a gathering I'd go to. When I'd get done with the gathering, you know how many times I've left gatherings with a great buzz to go find a home or to go check on a home? That was the level of commitment. I could be having a beer with you, Michael, on a Saturday at noon, get a text message and go, Michael, I'm out. And I would leave. There was nothing came between me and my business. And
at
that
least
was
you have somebody to drive you around now. You have the new rig. You could just have somebody drive you around, but you don't have to do that anymore.
no, I don't have to do that anymore. And that's why I wanted to get into the rental game, because I wanted to replace my income. I never want, it's the control factor. I
Yeah.
never wanted to be at the mercy of a market. Like when COVID hit, this is what my life did. Last 6 months hit, this is what my life did. Nothing changes in my life because there's no valleys anymore, because all of my bills are paid for plus some by just my rentals. And that's the game everybody should want to get to. Now, all of my flip income, my retail income, my wholesaling income, my personal branding, all that's extra. I don't
Right.
live my life on that though. To me, that is to go buy more rentals.
Right. So let's take one step back here. Let's talk about finding 123 deals in 1 year. Like you said, your name, your reputation had people bringing deals to you, likely, right? But like, what's the strategy that has produced so much predictability to find 123 deals? Because I know how much money I spent on marketing last year to do 93 deals, and it's a significant amount, right? But it's predictable because I know that this many marketing dollars produces this kind of result
Now you have a
consistently
business.
over time. And so
Yeah.
for you, were you looking at it from that? Or were you looking at it from more of a relationship game with all of the agents bringing you deals? Or like, what was the way that you find that many deals consistently? And let's just be real, like a pretty competitive market here in Vegas,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
over the
And
last
it's
couple
been
of years.
competitive most of my career. Think about it. It's a funny thing is when my career took off is when really the competitiveness began. Like 15 was a strong year, 16, 17, 18, 19 had a little lull, 20 was strong, 21 was strong, 22 was,
Yeah.
20 other than COVID, but right out of COVID. So yes, I've been competitive. Let me tell you how much I spend a year on acquiring real flips. That much.
I was afraid you were gonna say that because I know how much money we spent last year.
That's okay though. It means nothing. It doesn't. Your way is not the right way. My way is not the right way. It's your way. It's my way. But I'll tell you how. So I'm an MLS house flipper. We have proprietary softwares. I can write every house on the MLS by pressing one button at 25, 35, whatever the parameter I set. Within the amount of time it takes my software to scrub the MLS, prepare the offer, and then send out the offer. So I've
Yeah.
gotten more sophisticated. But at that time, 123 offers or 123 homes, there was a little bit of the auction, a little bit of the trustee sale, online auctions, trustee sale, MLS, wholesalers. But I track every single source of my deals on every single year. If you go and look and you were to combine all of them together, I would say that I buy 80% of my transactions off of the MLS. Now, how do you do that? It's a numbers game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like you and I fishing in the pond, and I have 40 poles just all leaning over the edge, and you've got 3. That's why I'm able to outperform most people, because I will write, or my team and myself and my softwares and all of the above in current time will write 140 offers a week. Like that's minimum. That's a shitty week, actually, if I break that up over 5 days.
But that's not where it stops, right? Like the offer goes out, but then there's a human component to that of the negotiating, the back and forth, and then up to a certain price point that you feel comfortable to pay, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't end there. No, you gotta touch it again. You gotta touch it again. Now you get a response. You see it goes under contract with some other house flipper. They bail out because they overpaid. And then it comes back on. Then you jump on again and go, hey, I'm still here. And then the other thing is that the brand has gone a long way where people go, if we get under contract with Galindo, it's a 99.9% chance it's closing. So that really goes my way. And then I got to touch them again, tie them up, get the money together, close it, the whole nine. But yeah, no, it's the only difference between then and now is that I have a software that helps me, and I have a bunch of team members that help me. And here was the reason why is my desire to make more money hasn't shifted. I just make a good chunk of money from my rentals, so I don't have to make that much off of my flips. But when I was broke, I didn't have that big chunk of money for my rentals. I wanted all the money. So I was like, I'll do all the work myself. And that's where people get lazy now. Some people are like, I want to, just go do all the work yourself.
Yeah.
If you have time, you usually don't have any money.
That's true. I say that all the time. It's so true because in the beginning you have all the time you could possibly need, right, to get these deals done. But I don't know. I'm not a handyman type of a guy, so I wouldn't do it. It takes so much longer. And like I've seen people do all the work, but it gets them sidetracked from building their business too, right? So I think there's probably a good balance with that. And then to be smarter, to work smarter.
Let me make sure I'm not saying I've never self-performed the work. I only did it on that one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood you there because I'm like, I got to disagree with you on this because
I think it's a good disagreement, assuming you thought that. No,
yes, that's what I thought.
Do not support that. I don't support. I support subbing that shit out.
Good. Perfect. So I just want to make sure the listeners heard that correctly as well. So I think that's the discipline, like you said, in the beginning, you need that quick cash. Like you need that money to fuel your life. But you get to a certain point, if you're responsible, you're putting that money there, and then eventually that exceeds, and now you don't need all this cash. Now you can go do things like buy these cars or do the social media brand and all that good stuff. And so now let's talk about funding. How do you fund 130 some projects? That's a lot of capital.
So I'm going to give you two perspectives here. There was 2015. 123 homes, and then I'm going to go 2021 because 22 is kind of a shit show with the interest rate increases and all that other stuff. So we'll do 2021. 2021, I've been 100% self-funded for the last 2.5, 3 years. And we did 87 homes in 2021. In 2015, I had an investor. So when you said, how do you get the funding? It depends on what you're referring to today or then. So let's just assume you're referring to then. I had one, what's funny, people don't know this, or some people don't know this, when they find out, they find it funny, is the Boakley brothers. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yeah, they were on this podcast.
Yeah, their dads, Phil and Tom, were my original investors. And I met Tom in the locker room at Las Vegas Athletic Club.
I love it.
So I just walked up to him. I knew who he was, and I said, hey, man, I'm a house flipper. I know that you have a house flipping business. Are you interested? And honestly, in a nutshell, there was a little rapport built over a few days, and he and Han and talking to me, and he goes, you know what? Let's meet. And they call luck is a blend of preparation and opportunity. So I, of course, was prepared. Of course, I was prepared because I don't fuck around. I always stay prepared. Or I don't seek the opportunity. And the opportunity was that he was willing to meet with me as his brother, which was Phil. They sit me down at Starbucks, and I came with printed out spreadsheets, before and after photos for the last 30 homes that I had done. I had my laptop hooked up to the hotspot or the Wi-Fi. I said, here's all of the homes I've done. I'm not going to pick and choose which ones to show you. You pick, I'll tell you everything about it. And Phil grilled me. And I spun the computer to him. I go, Phil, tell me. Phil goes, that one. I opened it up. I go, bought for 178, put $38,000 into it, held it for 90 days, sold it for 240, made $25,000. Here's the piece of paper that backs it up, spreadsheet down to the penny. Boom, hit another one. He goes, that one. I go, bought it for 199, put $42,000 into it, held it for this many days, sold it for this, made $26,000. Here's that spreadsheet down to the penny. Boom, pick another one. And they did it about 5 or 6 homes, and they're looking at me going,
dude,
who the fuck is this guy? They literally pick up, they go, come on. They go, follow me to the warehouse. They go, hey, Tammy. Tammy was their front girl. They go, this is the new house flipper. Here's $8 million line of credit. I'm like, holy shit, $8 million line of credit. They go, here's the 20,000 square foot warehouse. You can store all your material here. They go, get to work, and they left. I'm not kidding. It was that raw. I go, I've never had $8 million. I don't even know, how do I spend $8 million? My biggest investor before that was a mom and pop guy who gave me $1.2 million.
Yeah.
You know, so, and here's where the blessing came in, is those kind of guys that, you know, $300,000 a year doesn't move the needle, doesn't even get him out of bed. Right. So I couldn't go one toe at a time into this big pond. You know, they were like, dude, if you don't spend the $8 million, we're going to find somebody else that does. Well, you got to think, in my role, I'm like, dude, what happens if I fuck up? And now I'm $8 million in. Right. Well, you know what, Phil? And I'm going to give Phil all the credit in the world. He said to me, when I would call him and ask for advice, he goes, the reason you're calling me and asking me for advice is so that when I give you advice and you go fuck up, you get to go, well, you gave me the advice. And then now you get to blame me. So I'm going to give you one rule. It's one rule only that we operate under. If you put me in harm's way, you put yourself in harm's way. And he forced me to turn around and go back and figure it out on my own. And those guys forced me to spend all $8 million, which equated to 123 homes in a 12-month period. And you do anything 123 times in a 12-month period, you become an expert at it. And that's what I did. So I'm forever grateful to those two men for taking a shot on me and making me who I am today.
Dude, that is so good. I kind of had a little bit of a backstory. I had an idea of that relationship, but it is so cool that you were able to spend it and keep it going and to build that relationship, and it was a success.
Yeah.
What about if you didn't have the $8 million? Does it change things? Do you go raise other money and then do bank money? Because we use banks too, but I know this is a private capital. I mean, you basically had access to a fund. Does it change anything though if you don't have that?
You know, and the reason I had access, here's the thing, it's funny to look at it now, is I had access to a fund versus hard money. The difference was, bro, is you got to think, Lending Home didn't exist in 2015.
It's true.
Hard money didn't exist in 2015 for house flippers. You know, you want to do a big commercial project, you can go get hard money, but no fucking hard money lender was like, yeah, let me give this guy 130 grand. And if they did, it was like 12, 13%, 3 points. No. So you didn't have the world we live in today, but obviously the world we live in today is a more efficient approach, and Lending Home has become the Uber of hard money lending. We were borrowing money last year at 6%, 6.69%, you know, yep. 0.5 origination. I'm sure you were as well. You know, so it's just modernizing. It's just times being modernized. It's a different world at the time.
Got it. So you had the capital, and that was an amazing blessing. What about the construction management? I know you had this dialed in, but how do you do that? Do you have several GCs who are doing those jobs, or were you the GC, or how do you oversee that many projects all at once?
So at that time, and in my time now, I'm a believer that what you want to do is you want to put your GC in a position where he wakes up and the only thing he has to think about is your 10 houses. These GCs that spend some CPU storage bandwidth on figuring out where their next job is, those guys aren't the best at what they could do. They're construction guys. They're not marketing guys. Right. You know what I'm saying? So now they're in a space that they're not an expert at. You want to keep them in the space that they are an expert at. And what they're an expert at is coordinating men to perform construction. Right. And so for me, I've always been a big believer in finding 1 or 2 contractors that I can, what I call, impregnate to the fullest, so that when they wake up, the only thing they think about are the 10 projects that they have with me. Now that puts me under a lot of pressure, because now I have taken a human being, because I'm a moral, sympathetic person, and I've made them dependent on me. And so I have to do what's right to them. and I have to keep them working. And so for perspective, fast forward to last year when there was no flips and I wasn't buying anything, I had these 2 contractors that I had basically made dependent on me, and I was finding projects for them in my home, at my building, to keep them going. So if you do that, you have to understand don't be an evil human. You got to look out for these people now. And so that was how I did it. Now, the second thing is I micromanaged everything. Some people say that was bad, but to me, it's just work harder. And I was involved in picking out the chandeliers. I drove the property. I believed in driving the properties on Monday and prioritizing them, and whatever would be finished that week. And then it would be the next batch of properties you would drive were the ones that were going to be finished the next week. And then you would get back to the office and look for more deals. And in that way, you were always touching the properties. I would drive the same properties at least 2 times a week. Now you got to manage the money. You got to be dude, I ran a tight ship. You could ask anybody that's ever worked for me. And that's how I came up with the saying that I care more about my commitment to accomplishing your goals and my goals than I care about your feelings. Because when someone starts to work with me on January 1st, we lay out a business plan for the next 12 months. And I say, this is what you're going to make, period. This is what I'm going to make, period. Now, how we get there, it doesn't matter, but we're going to get there. And oftentimes halfway through, you find out who's lazy, you find out who's weak, you find out who's emotionally unstable. But because I don't give a shit about any of that. All I care about is getting us to our goal. And if you trust me, I will get you there. And I have every single year. And some people fall off the boat and some people stay on and go, this is a leader and I want to be with them. So for me, I lead aggressively. I lead with precision. And that's how I do it. I could get into detail on each one, but in a nutshell, I'm a leader. I'm not passive.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because you're to step in and do the stuff and lead by example. And that's so much respect for somebody who comes into an organization. What's your team look like today?
Let me back up just a second. So hold your question there. I'm going to tell you the level of, if I tell someone on my team to go do it, it's because I've either done it or will do it myself. And I'm never too good to do anything. There was a time that I bought a house where the squatters were shitting in the bathtub. Because there was no running water, so they would just keep shitting in the bathtub. I roll up to go check on it. The house is on Signet. I actually bought it as a rental because it was such a good buy. I rolled up to it. I still own it to this day too. I rolled up to it. The whole house is demoed out, and I go, guys, how's the bathtub going with all the shit? They're like, I don't think I'm willing to touch it, man. It's just so nasty. I go, no worries. I crawl up the side of the dumpster. I find a Cheez-It box. I pull the Cheez-It box out. I pull the bag out of the Cheez-It box. I put the fucking plastic on my hand. I walk into the bathroom and I start scraping the human shit out and shoving it in the Cheez-It box. And the shit wasn't the worst part because that was dried up and old. It was the cockroaches that were crawling out from inside of underneath the shit. And I made sure that every single person in the garage that welcomed me when I showed up was behind me watching me do it. And I said, that's how we fucking do it. And that's why all my guys respect me and will do what I say, because I'm not just barking orders. They know that if I tell them to go do something, that I'm willing to do it myself.
Wow.
And that's important. That's how you lead. These people that roll up and go do this, but they would never do it themselves. How do you garner any respect?
Right.
So
wow, man. I never thought I was going to hear that story. It's so funny because somebody last time was talking about speed to lead, and they think of it when a lead comes in, and it's like when they're on the toilet at work, they're submitting a form. You need to have them called back before they wipe and get off the toilet. So I love how this is turned into a shit show.
A shit show.
I'm just kidding. No, dude, that's awesome. So what's your team look like right now?
Okay. So my team today, because I have a handful of businesses. I have a consulting business, I have a retail business, I have a rental business, and I have a house living business, and I have a social media business. So my house living business is currently ran by my right-hand man, best friend for many years, Danny Jones. He runs it. And this is my first year doing this. I'm really trying to give him the reins, consciously trying to withdraw, which is why I started this, so that I had somewhere to put my energy. Otherwise, I would just revert back to micromanaging Danny. And I wanted to stay away from that. So I want him to run his show, run it on his own. He's been trained by me. He's an expert in the space. Anyway, Danny Jones runs a house flipping business. We have an amazing young lady here named Jadian that runs my consulting business. and is technically an assistant to Danny and everybody in the office. The thing here is nobody here makes shit money. All of my people make great money. And in exchange, I expect them to be capable of wearing multiple hats. Okay, I could be like Walmart, where I have a greeter, a cart guy, a cash register person, and a stock person, and everybody makes 30 grand. Or I could pay one person 130 grand, but they have to be able to get the carts, greet the guests, do the register, and stock the shelves. Now, I'd rather have a special human being that's capable of doing special shit that I pay a great amount of money, because now they're probably a more special human being and I have to do less managing. Anyway, so I have JD runs my consulting business and is an assistant to everybody in the office. Heather and Matt Langeth run my retail business. Nick Barbarino runs my out-of-state acquisitions for my rentals and my rental portfolio. And then my wife handles all of the rentals and Airbnbs. So literally my role is to walk around and be a support to everybody that runs their own space.
I love that, man. It's so cool. It's a different perspective, because a lot of people are talking about scaling, right? And I have went through that. I'm going through scaling right now, and I have 10 employees. But what happens is if you don't have everybody on the same page at the same urgency with the same end goal, which is so important in leadership and creating a vision for your people, then you're kind of just wasting space, right? Like, it's like people are just hanging out because they're getting paid a paycheck, right? Versus having something that they're extremely excited about. They're making a good income. And so I love this different perspective, because you don't have a huge organization of people. Maybe on the brokerage side you do, but like they're not W2.
But they all run their own show. They're their own show.
They're running businesses, right?
Yep.
So I like that perspective. Now, for people just to start thinking about this, if you have questions for Josh, be thinking about those and put those in the chat. That way we can have him answer those. Dude, this has been amazing. This has been above and beyond what I even expected, and I appreciate it very much. Any thoughts, any like words of wisdom or anything else that you have to leave listeners with as they think about some questions here?
There's a few tips and tricks that I live by. First and foremost, the one that I've been teaching a lot of people around me and teaching my children. Every one of my children can recite it, other than the 3-year-old. He's very close and he's almost there. But it's no brain. That's not fear. That's excitement. And I believe that the gland in my brain that generates the hormone that makes me feel either fearful or excited is the same gland and is the same hormone. It is my environment that is deciphering whether I use fear to manage it or excitement, but it's the same fucking hormone. So to me, I say all the time, no brain. That's not fear. That's excitement. And I teach my kids that, because fear is so what good. It's huge. I learned that in Mexico, man. And if you just stay away from, here's the thing, we all always come out the other side. If you think about it, all of the trial and tribulations and challenges that you've had in your life, and look at you sitting here in front of me. You look healthy, you look intelligent, you look excited, confident. Dude, I bet there's a time where you're like, I'm never coming out of this. But if you just remember that you always come out the other end. And I just now learned this because when this last interest rate hike came, the 7%, all that shit, dude, I looked at that. I was like, it ain't going to last forever. I didn't have any fear. I knew I was going to take it on the chin on a few homes, and I did. But I was prepared for it because I've been through so many of them from the beginning of my career. But nothing lasts forever. And to overcome fear, it's no brain. That's not fear. That's excitement. And the other thing is it defined your mission. My mission is to be legendary. And I think the universe defined it for me in 2022 when my wife went through breast cancer. I don't know if you knew that. She had 16 rounds.
Yeah, dude, I can't even imagine.
It will think with 4 kids and the ambitions that I've got. I had to actually have a moment with myself where I said, if something happens to her, what does my life look like for the next, every birthday for all 4 of my kids, every Christmas for all 4 of my kids? What is the trajectory of I had to have these fucking intense, real conversations with my, anyway, we fucking rolled that thing up, smoked the shit out of it, and flicked it out the window. That's how strong we conquered that cancer game, my wife and I. And
No
after
doubt.
that, we said to ourselves, we will live a legendary life for the rest of our lives. So I went and got it tattooed right here. It's the only tattoo I've got. It says be legendary. And if I'm ever in a space of fear, I literally say to myself, will this decision I'm about to make propel my life into a space of legendary living, or am I being a pussy in a
Yeah.
nutshell?
Yeah.
And if I say to myself, no, Josh, this is legendary, then I make the decision and I just execute it, no matter how much fear or anxiety I'm having, because I always know I'm going to come out okay.
Wow. Dude, that is incredible. It's I don't even know. Like honestly, like that little kid saying that you said, can you say that one more time? What you say to your
No,
kids?
no brain. That's up. Yeah. Oh, my. No, they're my children. My 9, 7, 5, and 3-year-old. If I say no, no brain to them, they will finish it with, "That's not fear. That's excitement." So the saying is, "No, no
Yes.
brain. That's not fear. That's excitement."
My point with all this said is we can learn a lot from kids, right? We can learn a lot about the way that we program our minds. This is just a different saying to get you to believe that it's not scary. It's just excitement. And excitement, you just need to take the action. I I have to share this, man. With my daughter, we have a saying that, what did you fail at today? So, did you fail today? And if you did, that's great. We're going to celebrate that because that means that you learned. And so, I like the no brain thing
I'm going to
because
take
it's
that.
going to stick. I think it's going to be something else that's going to stick with my kids because I have a 2 and a 4-year-old daughter. But we've got to teach these things and program these our children's brains, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, to where they're not going to be held back. Because so many people, like, dude, when I started this podcast, for example, I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it behind this audio or the video. I'm going to do this live because this gets me so uncomfortable to go live and have everybody watching as we do this episode. But what it did is it made me grow. Like it taught me to, who cares? At the end of the day, like the amount of value, dude, that you brought to this show has been absolutely incredible. And I'm not surprised. So thank you for that.
Well, that's very kind, and I'm very grateful for the platform that you provided to allow me to come on and speak. So it's
Of
really it's a win-win, man.
course, brother. Absolutely. And if you ever need a guest at your Airbnb for Brian Head, I love snowboarding. So
Do you? You
I
know
do.
what? No bullshit. If you, I don't offer this to everybody, but as a token of my appreciation, I have 3 up there.
Oh
So if
wow.
it's just you and your family, we can. Oh, I see a question. If it's you and your family, you just tell me. If it's you and a couple friends, tell me. Depending on the size of your group, I'll give you 2 days. All you gotta do is pay the cleaning fee and $100, and don't be a baby and not take me up on it because it's a sincere offer.
Dude, I didn't expect that, but I appreciate it very much, and I will absolutely take you up on it because I see Tyler, I see Casey
Yeah,
going out there all the time. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, dude, like
yeah.
I'm gonna have to hit you guys up one of these days. But anyway, we got a question. Um, Philip here says, sounds like you've pretty well laid out the recipe for success. Not much to question. What an awesome conversation. I do some of this with my kids every day, and we'll incorporate more. Appreciate that, Phil, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, Philip's a good dude. But 75 hard, I gotta follow up with Philip on how that's going. But anyway, Josh, this has been amazing. And I appreciate you. Guys, if you got value from this show, tell a friend about this. Share this
Please.
out there. Yes, this is why we do this. Tell a friend. It's free. There's no cost to this show. So all we ask is that you give us a review and you share this and tell your friends. That way we can inspire more people to be legendary and stop playing small and live this one beautiful life that we have. And with
That's right.
that, I think that's a wrap, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys.